Use a little more volume. Yeah, shut up.
What's going on with Jason Falkner these days?
Oddly enough, I'm starting my solo record day after tomorrow. I'll be doing it in my studio. Yeah, there's not much touring. I'm doing a couple of shows here in L.A. in October and November, and then nothing until I finish this record. So I'm going to be basically working on this record until the end of the year. I need to figure out how to put it out. I know that a lot of people are just self-putting things out now, but I am not nearly a disciplined enough businessman to put things out myself. I'll be looking for a label or vehicle or whatever to get this out and into people's heads. That's pretty much it.
In all the projects throughout the years, from Beatnik Beach to the Grays, the Jellyfish, to your solo work and studio work with Beck and McCartney, what have you dug the most?
Oh, man, without a doubt, my first solo record. When I look back at that point in my life, that was the first time I ever played every instrument, which some people misunderstand as me being showy or cocky or whatever. Like, look at me. It's not that at all. There's not even a hint of that with me. It's born out of such a deep love for rock music and all the different instruments. When I hear a song in my head and I start working it out and it turns into something that I'm writing, I'm hearing all the parts equally. I don't hear just the vocal melody or just whatever I'm writing on piano or guitar. I hear the bass line, I hear the drums, and I'm molding that as I'm writing it, as I'm recording it, trying different things, but it's always just me. So I do something, then go, no, this should be more like this, do it again, do it again, do it again. That's why I play all the instruments, because it's the most efficient and most honest way for me to get in my head out into the world. And instead of having to explain to a drummer that, no, you got to play it more like you're like 14 years old and you don't really know how to play that well, but you're also good. You're also you, and you can play, but it has to have that energy. And trying to describe that, ethereal things to people, it's just more time-consuming, actually. It takes longer to do that than me to play everything myself. I'm not even saying that's my favorite thing I've done, but just that period in my life, I was like probably 27 when I made that, and I was just on fire. Like, I just remember making that. Like, I had the poor engineer, that I just met. He had no idea what he was signing up for, and I just was like, you have to follow me with a microphone. Like, I'm just going to walk around, and I'm just going to pick stuff up. Follow me with that Neumann microphone and plop it right in front of me when I start doing something. And basically, that's how that record was made. It was just me running around like a madman, and then poor engineer sweating, following me around with a mic. And, that was a really innocent time for me, too, because I hadn't had any disappointments commercially. I mean, I didn't really care that much about the bands I was in before because I was not really like a founding member. And there was so much turmoil within the band with other people, just kind of like pushed me away and made me kind of think, oh, well, everything's going to be fine when I finally get a solo deal. So that was the culmination of all that frustration. And, and I'd signed to Elektra, and to me, Elektra, at least philosophically, seemed like a really cool mid-level label, not a huge conglomerate like Sony, but also not, a tiny little indie. And so that was really exciting. It took a while for the wind to be kicked out of my sails, when the album didn't sell. But when I was making it, that was probably the high point of my life.
What is your musical background?
I mean, I'm into so many different things. I was a classical kid, so I have a lot of a deep well to draw from musically, because I kind of know, at least instrumentally, I kind of know more than I should because of the classical music. That as a foundation for any musician is just invaluable. I mean, there's no other experience that can sort of train your mind to be able to not only hear and appreciate things, but know exactly how to do them once you've heard them once. I luckily had that kind of training, and I just had that kind of mind anyways.
How do you listen to the music?
I think I drive people out of my late night parties because I can't stop playing music for people. I'm just like, sit down, listen. Just like, listen to this. It also it sounds so good in my studio. I have a really cool console that was from Nashville in the mid-'70s, and just everything coming out of that. My system is of the era of the records that I'm listening to, so it's like a perfect, kind of match. And it just sounds striking in here. So it's more entertaining than anything that you could watch, in my opinion. It's just listening to good music on a good stereo system. It's like total revelation.
How do you craft a good song?
My record collection is as diverse as it could possibly get. I mean, it's Bartok and the Buzzcocks, and even way further out than both of those things. When I'm constructing a song and producing a song, I just kind of follow my instincts, and my instincts luckily have this big pool to draw from, and I just kind of trying to make something sound kind of original at the same time, which in this day and age is getting more and more difficult since so much ground has been covered.
What was it like to be a part of something that to this day is seen as one of the finest albums in the 90s, which are the Jellyfish albums? How was that to be in that band and to produce that kind of material?
Yeah, I was really a fan of the singer and the main songwriter, Andy. I didn't know him until I was in the band, but I had lived with the demos for 5 or 6 months before I finally moved up to San Francisco and officially joined what would become Jellyfish. You know, so it was very bittersweet because Andy and I just never got along. We're making what I consider to be a very, very good record. You know, I'm thrilled about that because I had just gotten out of the 3 o'clock, and 3 o'clock record I think is terrible. I thought it was terrible when we were making it. You know, I was the only one who thought so, and I was also the new kid, so nobody would listen to me. So I'm in this band with, we've got the guy that produced Saturday Night Fever and Eric Clapton, and, you know, we've got a really good engineer. And I'm just like, man, this is amazing. Why can't we just get along? Like, we're going to blow it. Like, I just knew that the attitude problems that we had with each other were going to devastate it. So that was, you know, like, that made it really bittersweet. I mean, we're doing these crazy orchestral things, and, you know, we had a really cool philosophy when we made that record, which was that the core of the band was the three of us, that we were always going to be represented in every song as a trio played live. People don't know that, but so every song on that record has a performance of the three of us live, and that's the first performance. So that's the skeleton of the song. And so in songs like She Still Loves Him, okay, she still loves him, you hear it's just one guitar. I'm playing that guitar, and then the solo kicks in, and you hear the rhythm guitar go away because the solo is me just stepping on an AV box and switching to another amp that's just cranked up, and that's my solo tone. I just thought things like that were really cool and also not very of the day because, you know, in the 1989, 90, 91, man, nobody was making records like that. Everything was Fairlights and horrible samples. It was cool. I mean, I was aware that we were making something that was like notches above the competition. I think we all were, and that's one of the reasons why it's kind of so sad that we just couldn't get it together and like get along. I mean, it just seems like it should have been easier to do than it was, but it wasn't.
There has never been any talk of you guys doing anything ever again. It was just once you guys were done, that was the end of Jellyfish.
Well, once I was done, I was like good riddance. I mean, I had an ulcer when I was 22, and I was really affected by the bad attitude that I got from Andy. I was really affected by it because I care. You know, if I didn't care, then I'd just go on to the next thing. But I really cared, and I really cared about that music. Yeah, no, there's never, I mean, I left, and then I remember their manager calling me, like, even like a year later, going, like, please. And he just was walking around going, I just want Jason. Like he's meeting potential guitar players, and he's like, well, he's not Jason. I'm like, well, that's weird, because that guy never, ever gave me any indication that he even cared about my playing. You know what I mean? So then he's like, but it's not Jason. I was like, that's weird. But the only thing that has come up that I don't think will happen, probably because of Andy, because I would actually do something now. There's a huge festival out here called Coachella. I think it was about a year, maybe either a year ago or 2 years ago, somebody from Coachella, one of the promoters, found my info and asked me if the band would be interested in reforming for Coachella. And I was like, well, I think you're going to have a hard time finding Andy and convincing him to do that. But, you know, I was like, well, I might do it. And then it just fell away.
What is your favorite Beatles album?
I'm sure it's probably Revolver. Thanks a lot, man. Good talking to you.